What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of History Before Us with me, Frederick Murphy. If you've been following the channel, then you would have seen me in Louisville, Kentucky at Roots 101, and then most recently at Huntsville Revisited in Huntsville, Alabama. And these are independent museums that are centered on Black history. And I'm doing the same thing today here in North Carolina, a stone's throw from where I live in Charlotte. Right now I'm in Burlington, and I'm here with James Shields. And James, we met last year.
Yes.
With James as well as Ron. He's right there. We're going to be hanging out a little bit later on, going to some sites here. And I don't know if you all remember, I was with Kyle last year, and we came up here and we did some Underground Railroad history, and he did a beautiful rendition of some musical pieces that he does here in the community, and he's just a great voice. But he also is the head of this museum, as you all see. Look around and we'll get a little bit deeper into it. And so, James, Brother Shields, please, how did this come into play? We were talking Burlington, North Carolina, a place that is known for its furniture.
Right.
But we also know that history is very rich here as well. So walk us through this.
Well, this is the African American Cultural Arts and History Center. It was started really as a vision of Miss Jane Sellars. She recognized that the contributions and the history of African Americans here in Alamance County just were not known, not recognized. Okay. We have many books here on the history of Alamance, written by scholars, written by journalists who intentionally kept out the history of African Americans. We know that going back to enslaved Africans, that we've been here since the beginning, sure. Right? Even before it was Alamance County, right? It used to be Orange County. And so we know that we've been here, but yet when you open up these books, somebody intentionally kept us out. Yeah. So her whole vision really started when she wanted to shed some light on the history of the Richmond Hill area. Rawhut Street, Apple Street, some of the first Black churches are there, some of the Rosenwald schools that were there. Some of those buildings are still there. Some of the first businesses that are still there. There's still a Rosenwald school down on 62. So like north on 62.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is it still, are you able to visit it?
Yeah. I mean, right now it's locked up, but
okay, cool.
But we actually have the keys to it.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah, so it's really cool. But it's a great place. It's got the desk. It's got the flag with 48 stars on it.
Nice,
and all
nice.
That. So it's got an outhouse. It's got
Let's
all
come
that.
Back for that.
Yeah.
For sure.
So she wanted this to happen. And so for a long time, she started this probably around 2017. And a lot of the stuff you see on the walls, she would take to whoever would have her, libraries, churches.
So more of like
groups.
A traveling exhibit.
Exactly. So, and unfortunately, she passed away in 2019. Okay. So she didn't live long enough to see the physical space. And so
laid the roots.
Right. And so we're really lucky that her daughter, Shanice Sellars, who's not a historian, but she understood the importance of her mom's vision, because it would have been really easy just to let it go.
Yep.
Right, and just put everything in a box and just let it sit. And so here we are. And so we've been here now 4 years.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to next year. It'll be our 5th year here in this space. At some point, we hope to be in another space, maybe closer to town, possibly downtown or something like that. But for now, we're really happy to be here. We get a pretty good draw of folks lately. We've got a lot of people who see the sign, oh, well, let me come in, and then they end up spending about an hour or so.
Yeah.
Because it's their history. Yeah. And so if you grew up here and you come in and you see stuff like this, and you say, oh my God, this is us. There's no other place in this town with all the museums that we have. There's no other place where you can walk in and see us. But this is Miss Jane Sellars, and she is the one who started this a long time ago. And then up top is a picture of her and her daughter in front of the McCrae School.
Okay. And that's the Rosenwald School you're talking about?
Yes,
okay,
and so that's before it was refurbished, but it has since been refurbished. And so it's got a nice fresh coat of paint. It's
Yeah.
got some other things. We actually have an outdoor classroom there as well. So
Okay.
yeah, so we're really cool with that. We always like to start with Africa because our history doesn't start in chains. It's unfortunate because a lot of the young people that come, they don't get any of this.
Yeah.
And before we talk about slavery, it's really important not only to talk about the continent, how big it is, the diversity of cultures and language and whatever, but the skills that we brought here, right? I always like to refer to, for example, to the Gullah Geechee community and how when folks came to, Savannah and Charleston and places, one of the things they wanted to do was grow rice, but they didn't know how to grow rice. But guess what? These guys here in what we call the Gold Coast, they knew how to grow rice. So let's go get them. And so they were able to come into South Carolina, come into those swamps, come into those saltwater marshes and turn them into freshwater marshes, right? That's engineering.
For sure.
Okay.
And a lot of it was done by hand.
Exactly. Exactly. And so
I learned it by spending a lot of time down there.
and so it's so important for us to kind of point this out, talking about things, even going far back, Kush and places like that. I just read somewhere where, for example, the pyramids of Egypt, even during the days of Cleopatra, a lot of those pyramids were already ancient. So it just tells you how far back, the culture goes. And then, of course, we start to talk about slavery. We have a few things here that we've gotten. Some are actually from my collection that I have. Like this is a Manila from, I believe that particular one is from a Portuguese ship. And that was used to buy enslaved Africans. So, for example, let's say an 8-year-old girl, about 10 or 12 of those, and you could exchange those for.
And this is like a bracelet.
Yes.
Okay.
And what happened was that the Europeans, once they realized that these were things that they could use as currency, they go back to Europe and they make their own. So now they come with these bags of these bracelets. We
Counterfeit.
know, exactly.
It's counterfeit, though.
We know that slavery and that slaves were money.
Sure.
And literally here in North Carolina, when banks printed their own money, they would actually put facsimiles of slaves on the money.
In that Wadesboro, are we talking Anson County?
Yes.
Yeah, which was a huge county at one point. It broke up.
Right.
Anson County was there, Richmond County, they were all kind of right there.
Exactly.
Louisville and
Exactly.
those places.
So we do talk about slavery here. We know that in Alamance County, at least once you get to about 1860, approximately between 4,000 to 5,000 enslaved Africans spread out over as many as 500 farms. Now, obviously, all those farms did not have enslaved Africans, and in most cases, if you did, you had maybe one or two.
These weren't the sprawling plantations.
No. Unless you were the Holt family, right, who had at any given time between 50 and 80 enslaved Africans. The Holt family was a family that not only did they have a large farm, but they also control most of the textile business here in this area. So from Graham all the way down to Saxapahaw, that's what they would do.
Now I'm looking at this right here, this picture of Jim and Martha Miles. What's the story behind them?
So this is an article that was written in the Daily Times News back in 1940.
Okay.
And I guess these were two people who were survivors of slavery. It's interesting, the story that they tell here. These were people who were almost, they were almost pro-slavery, and they kind of are reminiscing about the days of slavery, right?
And when you say these, you're talking about Jim and Martha pro-enslavement.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they talk about, for example, they talk about when they snitched on some of their fellow slaves because they stole some white flour. Because for us, we're not supposed to have white flour. That's cake flour. We're not supposed to have that. And so they did that. They talked about when the Yankees came. Those damn Yankees came, and so it's interesting that that's what they chose
to put in
to put in. And this is the beginning of an example of when you allow other people to tell your story.
Yeah.
And so the Daily Times News is the local paper that, of course, goes back at least that far. Others go back even farther than that. But the fact that of all the things that they could have talked about, this is what they talk about.
And this
right?
was in July the 20th, 1940.
1940, yeah. So this is a map of North Carolina in 1860. And as you can see, there are numbers within each of the counties.
See it right there.
And Alamance is here. That's the percentage of enslaved Africans in each county.
Goodness gracious, and I'm looking right here, and this is where my folks were enslaved, 68% in Warren County.
Yeah.
Is that one of the highest?
The total population.
Yeah, that is the highest. I was informed that was the highest. So 68% in Warren County. Goodness gracious.
Wow.
Which isn't too far from here,
and see, I had folks in Warren, Northampton, Hartford. I think on my mother's side, they came from Warren and Franklin. And then on my father's side would be Hartford and Northampton counties.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of
and so of course you see
well,
here.
you know what? No. Oh, this is South Carolina. Fairfield,
Yeah.
South Carolina.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that concentration of area right there is very, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not a coincidence. Everything east of the river, from what I understand, the soil east of here is different. And so this is when, starting with Caswell, which is just above us, that's when you start getting into tobacco, cotton. And that's why you've got such a high concentration of people. And even Jones County here at 60%. And going down here, still Brunswick County, New Hanover County. And of course, we know about the deal in South Carolina.
Sure.
We also, as we were going through some of the slave deeds in Guilford County, we started to see Quaker names, Quaker surnames, right? We said, okay, hold up, what's going on here, right? But the idea was, if I own you, then you're protected. Just like my cow is protected, just like my house is protected, just like, I am protected now, so you can't mess with that person because I own them. Because otherwise, I can take you to court, I can have you charged with theft, the whole 9 yards. And so they were protected, but people understood that if you were owned by a Quaker in this type of situation, it was in name only. Okay. So you got this area.
Yep.
These are advertisements mainly from the Graham newspaper. In most places, the sheriff was responsible. That was the person that you would go to if you had a runaway. And they would put ads in the newspaper. This one is interesting in that Joe, who was a blacksmith, was last seen in New Garden. Okay, so where's New Garden?
Right there, Guilford.
It's right there. And who's in New Garden?
Quakers.
The Quakers, right? What we now call Guilford College, and of course the tree that we went to. So that was where they would go. And so they understood, this guy, we're probably not going to get him.
Yeah, he's out of there.
And so Burlington, well, here's the railroad. The railroad was supposed to go through Graham, is what they wanted it to go. But the people in Graham, being that it was the county seat, they didn't want, so they were going to put a maintenance spot halfway through. So trains would come in, they would get the maintenance worked on or whatever, and they wanted to do it in Graham. Well, it's noisy, it's smoky. We don't want that. Well, hey, we got land north of here, and so let's just put it here. And this area was called company shops.
Company shop.
That's what it was. It was the company shops for the North Carolina Railroad Company.
And as you see it right here, it says it was born as company shops, one of the railroad's construction and maintenance shops.
Yep. So you've got the railroad. The railroad happens. Slavery's over. And now some of these black folks are starting to step up. You got Spencer Thomas, for example. Spencer Thomas was, he came here just like John Lane came here as part of the railroad. They were brought here by their masters. Spencer Thomas worked with sheet metal.
Yeah.
And he ended up being a very prominent person here in the area.
Okay.
Then you've got John Lane, who is credited with coming up with the name Burlington.
Oh, really?
Then you've got Wyatt Outlaw.
Yeah. I've read about that story, the brother that was lynched.
Yes. So here's the setup.
Yep, talk to me. And real quick, everyone, so as you all see the soils here, you know, and I know a lot of people that have been to the museum in Alabama that they've, you know, saw a lot. And there's some in Georgia. There's some that's in Huntsville as well. At Huntsville, we visited, they have this as well. And there's just initiative across the country to reclaim the soil from a remembrance standpoint.
Exactly.
So they've done the same thing here at this museum.
Yeah, we have.
For sure.
Yeah. And so 1868 or so, and black people, black men are politically active. Many white men, especially those with some type of status, have been actually, in some ways, politically deactivated because of their role in the Civil War, being part of the Confederacy. And they're seeing these black men step up, like the Wyatt Outlaw.
Yeah.
Wyatt Outlaw was a leading figure. He was on the town council.
Yeah.
He was a constable, but he also was a leader of the Union League, which was an arm of the Republican Party. And so he was kind of a mentee in some ways of Governor William Holden, who of course was a Republican. So the Republicans kind of ruled in this area for a small amount of time. And
do you feel that some of that is due to the Quaker influence as well? Like from a cultural standpoint, that hardcore ideology of enslavement, yeah, it's here. We're in the state of North Carolina, we're in the South, but there's a couple of soft spots to where the ideology of Republican back then could thrive and survive a little bit more than perhaps if it was elsewhere? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I don't know how to answer that, in that we know that many of the Quakers certainly were involved. We know that some set up schools, and we know that they would help some of the folks, whether it's in Guilford County or in this county. But I don't know how many were blatantly out there from a political standpoint.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, I will say that I have members of my family that were Republican members of the state legislature in the 1870s and 60s from Guilford County. And in fact, during their tenure, they advocated for what is now NCA&T University to be chartered kind of alongside of NC State. It didn't happen at the exact same time, but it's kind of like you can't ignore this population.
Right.
So they were advocates for that during that time. So I personally believe that there was some positive influence.
Oh yeah, certainly.
What the degree is.
Yeah, that's the difficult part.
The problem is that it was, and again, a Republican in the 1860s and 70s was a liberal.
Yes.
And the Democrats were the conservatives.
That's right. That's right.
And it was very dangerous to be a Republican in Reconstructed North Carolina. the U.S. government passed the anti-Ku Klux Klan laws in the 1870s. They sent troops down here. But once those troops got removed, you were at
That's
the
right.
mercy of
Absolutely.
the vengeance
Right.
of
Right.
the former
Right.
leaders.
And that's what happened here. Okay. So you've got these black men who are stepping up. You've got white men who are like, no, this is not going to happen. There's no way that we're going to bow down to former slaves.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. And so what happens? We create the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
You get, here in North Carolina, you had at least 3 different camps of the Klan. You had the White Brotherhood, you had the Invisible Empire, and then there was another one, I think it was called the Constitutional Union Guard, okay? Led by a man named Jacob Long. Jacob Long was the brother of the first president, Elon College, okay? And so the Klan started terrorizing people, black and white.
Yeah, it says it clearly right here. Beware ye guilty,
So,
both black and
yes.
white.
And so they were going through terrorizing folks, especially if they were Republican. They had basically 3 aims. And this is according to Dr. Carol Troxler, who's done a lot of really good work. Because again, we've got all these books that basically glamorize the idea of the Klan. There's one book in particular that says because the white man had been so downtrodden, had been so abused, that we had to create the Klan.
Because they've been so abused.
Right. So they're going through and they're terrorizing people. Folks like Caswell Hope, who was attacked twice. One point he was shot in the chest. Many folks and many of those stories are here in this book, 61 Citizens Terrorized by the Ku Klux in or near Alamance County.
Wow.
And this is between 1868 and 1870.
They did it in short order.
Yes.
As far as time, for sure.
And
they
so-
got busy.
That's why I say those 3 jars you see there, that's an underrepresentation.
Oh, God, yes.
Has to be. Has to be.
Those
Yes.
are just the ones we have hard documentation
Right,
about.
exactly. As a matter of fact, one of the books I was telling you about, they actually say, once this was over, there was no need for the Klan.
Yeah. Because
Right.
this
You know,
structurally
right,
did everything.
right. Because there was all this disruption and whatnot, that happened because of black people wanting to vote, right? And even this sign that's in Graham about the Kirk and Holden War doesn't tell the story of Wyatt Outlaw, racial violence. Well, the racial violence was coming from white
It
folks.
was more of a massacre.
But yet, this is what they chose to put up, which I thought was interesting. And even now, we go back and forth, in terms of whether or not we should name a park after Wyatt Outlaw, whether or not we should even speak of him at all. I do know that, every year, at least as long as I've been around
been a
here,
celebration
they actually, so we have a visual. But I know last year, the Graham Police Department actually, during the month of February, they actually had a thing for Wyatt Outlaw, right? Yeah. So it's interesting how we decide to remember our history, and it continues to say a lot. Suffice to say, the Klan was pretty deep, in this area. We like to talk about some of the folks that came, again, nearly 100 years goes by
1972.
before we get, Jack O'Kelly, David Maynard, Dr. Shanks, and others. And then these are some of the other folks who have been elected. Ms. Bigelow, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal
out to her.
given that in Burlington they don't have district seats. And so in order to win, you got to win at large. And so
At City Council 2023?
first black
First
woman,
black woman elected to
First
the
black
City
woman,
Council in 2023.
and the first black person since David Maynard.
In 1981. As you all see
You
right
get
here.
Tamika up here.
I know. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I need to update this actually.
But you see this in so many instances across, in particular across the South, where it's taking hundreds of years for people to reclaim these seats.
Yeah, yeah. And so a lot of the things that we do, we also talk about Black Bottom, which was a black business district first on Worth Street, downtown Burlington. And some of the first businesses that were there were actually the Thomases. Spencer Thomas had a sheet metal shop on Worth Street.
It's kind of ironic. I believe Worth Street's named after Governor Jonathan Worth. Jonathan Worth was raised a Quaker in Guilford County, and then went into business and law, and eventually left the Quaker faith, became a slave owner, became the treasurer of North Carolina during the Civil War, and then became the first governor after the surrender in the Civil War.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And his two brothers ran the state salt works in Wilmington, which is where conscience objectives were sent.
That's where they were. That's right. So that's, you can barely see the
interactive
sign
map here.
for the Thomas brothers. Yeah. And this is right off of Worth Street. Not
What
sure
year?
what those
Do
churches.
we know about
So
what year
this would have
would've
been around the 1880s.
Okay.
This is a Sanborn map of the area as well. Worth Street, you've got a tenement house, which is a Negro tenement house. Oops, sorry.
Oh, you good?
And then tobacco warehouse. But it's interesting how they chose to call this the Darky School,
Oh, yeah, I do
Right.
see that.
which there was a
we know what
school
school
that
that
was
was,
burned.
or-
Well, I don't know if that was the one that was burned. There was one school that was burned. There was a guy, Alonzo Corliss, who built a school, and he was part of the Klan violence as well. And so he had built this school in company shops, and he was beat, and then eventually they actually closed the school. And this is online, so if people want to check it out, it's online. And then we also have different things like photos and things, yearbooks, for example.
Oh, nice.
That we have, so people can come, because we have a lot of older yearbooks, but they're very fragile, and so folks can
Digitize
just
them is the
and
best
so
thing to
folks
do.
can come in and look at them, and so yeah.
So for your,
So it's pretty neat.
genealogy freaks, this would be a good place to go.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I like to ask people, did we integrate or did we just simply desegregate, right? And I think part of the answer to that is May of 1969. So Williams High School is the quote unquote white high school. And in 1968, they started to integrate and they started to close down Jordan Sellars. And so they started sending black kids over to Williams. In 1969, there were about 1,800 students at Williams High School and only 60 were black. The young people will tell you, the young black students will tell you that they were threatened with violence. White kids were bringing weapons to school, and when I say weapons, they were bringing guns, knives, things like that. There were fights every day, and so The straw that broke the camel's back in this case was young black student wanted to be on cheerleading squad. Well, back then, the student body voted on the cheerleading squad. So as you can imagine, with the math being 1,800 white students, 60 black, you know. And even though cooler heads were saying, well, why don't we at least create a couple of spots, right? Oh, that's not fair. That's not how we did it. But now all of a sudden we're worried about things being fair. So the young people took their grievances to the superintendent. They went downtown. They went to the superintendent's spot. And he basically said, I'm not trying to talk to y'all. So they trashed his office and they go back to Williams High School. The remaining students that were at Jane Sellars, they walk across town and they join their friends on the lawn of Williams High School and they do a walkout. Well, of course, we can't have that, not in the middle of school. So those kids were pushed out and they were pushed back to their neighborhood, Raw Hut Street, that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Unrest is still going on. People are throwing rocks, whatever. So they bring everybody from the police department, all 90, I think at the time, of the police department. They bring in the sheriff's department, highway patrol, and eventually the governor, again, a Scott from here, brings in the National Guard. People felt some kind of way about that because this was the one place in Burlington where they felt this was our place and we were safe.
For sure.
And so cars are coming through Raw Hut Street, 62, and they would see a car coming, and if it was a white person, they say, honky, and they throw rocks and stuff at it. So, of course, you bring in the National Guard.
Yeah.
There's a claim that there were snipers coming from some of the homes, though as far as I know, no one was ever accused of being a sniper. There wasn't a whole lot of weapons that were recovered, at least on the other side.
Okay.
There was rioting, country grocery, and then there was a fish market that was burned and looted. And later on that night, a young man, along with his friends, they were kind of walking around, seeing what was going on, and they were told to stop by the authorities. And most of the young boys ran, but this young man, Leon Mebane, did not run. According to his mother, he had his hands up, whatever, but he was shot. He was shot and killed. 14-year-old boy.
If you're running, doesn't mean that you're threatening.
Yeah, right,
That
right.
means that you're
especially
not.
if you're running away.
Yeah.
Right. So he was shot and killed. He we never really found out who shot him, even though his death certificate tells us that it was homicide. So we do know that. The official story is that he got caught in crossfire. One of the things that either got destroyed or hidden was the ballistics report. And as you can imagine, what that would tell us.
For sure,
right?
for sure.
Especially since you have your National Guard and others, ammunition, of course, is issued to them. And so we would have some idea. But that didn't happen. And so, as you can see from the newspaper articles of the time, again, they were...
Talks a lot about the curfews.
It talks a lot about the curfews, about the calm that used to be. There was a lot of ringing about, outside agitators, because our Negroes certainly wouldn't act like this on their own, right? And I always find this interesting, and it reminds me, because you also going the same time, you got the moon flight that's going on, and it reminds me of a Gil Scott-Heron song, Whitey on the Moon.
Yeah.
But,
Love Gil Scott.
and And as you can see, these are the kids that are that had stepped out. But again, it's not until a couple of days later does the newspaper even say anything about the grievances that the kids have. And when you read through this, it really doesn't say a whole lot about why. It was just,
why it was happening. It was just
Negroes were wilding out.
Yeah.
We had to bring in the cops, and that's pretty much what you see here. But, history is history, right? And so this is about, and it's not just about what was done to us, but it's also about how we responded, right? So we do talk about folks like Bobby Bennett. Bobby Bennett was a student at Jane Sellars High School, and he was a member of the Famous Flames. So who's the Famous Flames? Famous Flames sung with and for James Brown. And in fact, before it was James Brown actually joined the Famous Flames.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And Bobby Bennett was a member of the Famous Flames. And he was the last surviving member when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
What year did he pass?
Separate from 2013.
2013.
So yeah,
You said something important. You said on their own.
Right. Yeah. So like separate from James Brown, because of course James Brown was the very first person to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But and then
right here.
Then J.C. Davis, who also went to Jane Sellars, he was a band leader for James Brown, and one of his this particular song was sampled a lot by hip hop folks, and in fact he sued Justin Timberlake because Justin Timberlake used this for one of his songs and didn't give credit to J.C. Davis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah.
He had to get his money.
Yeah, exactly. And so, the one thing that we're working on right now, we get people coming here all the time. We know James Brown played in Burlington, so-and-so played in Burlington, all these people played in Burlington. And so we know this, and I think on the screen, actually, I've got pictures of a ticket stub, I think, from a club that used to be in Mebane called the Orange Bowl Supper Club. And it was owned by this guy, Mac Thompson. Okay. We also try to keep up with many of the professional athletes that have come out of our county, and some close by, like Lou Hudson and McAdoo, of course, are from Greensboro, and then we also like
Torrey Holt down there.
Yep, Torrey Holt.
Yep.
So we also like to show just to bring some light on Jerome Evans. Jerome Evans was made the football coach of Williams High School the year after the riots. And he actually predates the story of Remember the Titans. So really, they should have told a story about him.
Him versus.
So we also try to bring some type of light on some of the women in our county. And we actually do a thing. We try to do stuff every year or so. This is from an older program that we did, but we've got folks like Dr. Stiles and Dr. Crisp, who is a dentist. She just retired, I think. I just found out that she just retired, but she was the first, if not one of the first, Black women to graduate from the dental school in Carolina.
Okay.
She tells the story about how when she was a kid, and just to give you an idea, we talked about how we're conditioned not to go in certain places, right? And she tells the story about how they would drive by the city park that had a carousel. And how, oh, Dad, so can we go to the carousel? Of course, any kid would want to go to the carousel,
sure.
regardless of race, right? No, baby, we can't go today. Maybe we can go some other time. Not knowing or not being told we can't go because of the color of our skin, right? Yeah. And she also tells a story about how coming back home, which I thought was really cool. The one thing I love about a lot of these folks that we talk about, a lot of these folks left here, but they came back. And so this is home. And they wanted to gain whatever skills, whatever experience that they got and bring it home to make Alamance a better place. And so I thought that was great. And so she came back here and she went to anywhere between 10 to 12 banks in order to get the funding to open her office, you know, which would not have been a problem had that been a white male with coming from Carolina, of all places, right? And there was one bank said, well, we will give you the loan, but your parents have to put their house up. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. And eventually she was able to find someone to help her out. But yeah, so a lot of these folks, as you know, kind of tells the story a little bit of our county. These are on loan from Elon, and we're really we have a really good relationship with them. You know, with them. I mean, these are very valuable, very old, but they. But it's great for us to be able to show, you know, the craftsmanship and talk a little bit about the culture connected to it, the spirituality connected to it.
For sure.
And yeah. And then I guess the last thing, as part of our connection to Elon and some of the professors, this was started with Jane, where we started what we call the Power in Place project. We've done now close to 75 oral histories.
Okay.
And
who is that in conjunction with? Is it just
with us, Elon, the city of Burlington, and we have branched out. We try to do some work with Williams High School. We've done some work with other folks, but again, telling the story of, because it's one thing to show dates and names and stuff, but now you've got people who came up during these times and they can show you. For example, you know, you got a guy that grew up in Elon and he talks about the times where during the summer, like you're playing with the white kids and you're doing this, but now it's time to go to school.
And you're not.
And you're going this way and we're going that way, right? Yeah. And you know, just again, like folks like Ricky Hurtado, for example, we really have not fully told the story of you know, Latinos in Alamance County, and I know, and you know, folks, they've had a huge presence here for quite a long time now, right? I actually used to recruit a lot of students for my program from Alamance County, right? And some of the first kids that I used to recruit came out of his program that he ran. So so this is a very important thing that we've been doing, just this idea of people being able to hear from folks, hear the stories,
for sure,
you know, as opposed to the dates and the names and whatnot. We're at a crucial place right now. I think we understand the importance of what we do here right now. Again, we are all about trying to tell the truth, and we don't have an agenda. We don't have a political agenda or anything like that. We just want to tell this history, right? Miss Jane Sellars was clear that this is everybody's history.
Yeah.
This is not just Black history. right? You know, we were enslaved by people, by other people, right? Some of the things that were done to us. And so again, like I said earlier, you know, this is about what was done to us, but also how we were able to overcome that, and how we were able to rise above it. So,
Absolutely. Well, this is absolutely amazing. This is very comprehensive. I love coming to these smaller cultural centers and museums. This is an immersive experience. As you've seen, you have some displays that are digitally over there. You have old newspaper clippings. You have artifacts that are here. And if you're here when James is here, then you have a great storyteller as well, who's just very knowledgeable about the local history here. And so I'll leave the information in the description of this episode. And like I always mention, if you like this type of content, please make sure to subscribe and share. We greatly appreciate you for today.
all right.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man.